All right. Yep. I got my coffee. Got your coffee, Shannon?
I have my coffee.
Welcome to Coffee with Coaches. Today I got Shannon here again. Shannon and I are gonna, I've been looking forward to talking to you about the topic today because it's such a good one. We're gonna talk about the challenges of decision making. And so good.
How to make a decision.
I don't want to make decisions anymore. I'm like on decision
overload. Oh, that for a second, because I think that is such a thing. And I think people don't realize that decision overload is a real thing.
It is a real thing. It is.
When we were in lockdown, I feel like we were in decision overload all the time because it was like, okay, we need to make what's the right decision. And it was just, kids were home all the time. There was just decision after decision after decision. When I was a teacher, I was a special ed teacher, we had to make so many decisions. And by the time I got home, I was exhausted. And I would tell my husband, I'm like, you need to make all the decisions. I cannot make another one.
Oh, I've had that too. Where I'm like, I don't even want to decide what's for dinner. I'm right. I don't want to decide who's okay. Going, like simple things, like that's.
I have something to help with that.
Okay.
I think this is a really important thing to do. It's an easy tool, but it's one that I don't implement as much as I should. But every week, my husband and I try to start the week with writing down what we're going to have for dinner throughout the week. Mm-hmm. So that when we get to Wednesday, we aren't saying, oh my God, I don't know what we're going to have. What are we going to, I'm so tired. I don't want to make a decision. We're just going to order out. And then and we end up eating terribly and we feel like crap. Or because we have so many sports that we're trying to get to, that we need to have the ingredients, we need to order early, we need to know. It just takes that one thing off of your mind so you don't have to think about it later. And you just know, okay, well, Tuesday is going to be Taco Tuesday. That's just what we do. So we're going to do Taco Tuesday and we know the ingredients. Or Wednesday, we're going to have hamburgers. It's a really quick meal that we can make and we have a lot of sports that day. And we just know so that we're not having to go back and forth and talk about it. We're not going to have, it's just such an easy way to take that decision making out of the day and out of our mind. We do the same thing with our workouts. We do the same thing with planning on who's going to take who to sports. Who's going to take, on Monday, who's going to take on Tuesday, all of it. Like we plan what we can plan at the beginning of the week so that those decisions don't have to be
check.
It just takes that
load. You jumped right into a tool. So whoever listening, hey, you already got one tool in the first 5 minutes.
That's my contribution for today.
Well, planning ahead, particularly those things that are, you already know are coming, right? That comes every day, trying to figure out what to eat, right? So planning ahead is huge. And other things like other logistics, other things, people sometimes kind of, go like, God, you plan everything. Like, I'm like, yeah, because I can't, like, when it gets to it, it's sometimes things are so complex to you with, bigger family household or whatever else is going on where the logistics matters and, like driving or, what have you. Yeah. But it's in business too, not just, but family life is a perfect example. So anybody who has multiple kids, it's a challenge sometimes to get everybody to everywhere and figuring out logistics. Trying to plan ahead as many things as you can that are, they are coming up. There are certain dates, there's certain, we're going to eat every day. The workout, hopefully, but healthy. Like you said, the key is, for healthy habits. Because otherwise, the brain will choose the easy way out. Mm-hmm. And
absolutely,
the effect is we're not going to eat healthy. So that's just one example. But the planning ahead is one amazing tool. It's, it does take a little time as any skill to learn to do it. I don't know. Did you guys start and got that done, pretty consistently right away? I mean, you got a partner too, their accountability partner. Since you got your husband, you guys are doing it together. So that's awesome.
Yeah, we've been doing that off and on for a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when I was teaching, because by the time I came home, I was so exhausted that it was like I'm not going to the grocery store. I like there was I was just too tired. Um, and another way this came into my life this week that I noticed was with my business. I was having a conversation with my coach, and she said, okay, these are the things that need to get done. And while we were talking about it, I made a plan for, okay, Monday, this is what I'm going to work on. Tuesday, this is what I'm going to work on. Wednesday, I'm going to give myself a little extra time. Thursday, Friday, these are the things I'm going to work on, so that when Tuesday came along, I wasn't like, what am I what am I doing today? And I just come into my office and go, I knew what I was doing. My brain had already wrapped itself around like that concept and was already starting to think about like, what the creative process. And I was able to just sit down and do the work instead of making a decision
Yep.
about what to do. Okay, what am I going to do? And I would have spent half an hour trying to figure out, well, what should I do today? I just had the plan.
Yeah, and you a very key component here. I'm going to kind of go back to a little fundamental component. The brain needs a lot of energy to make decisions. Fact.
Yes.
It needs a lot of energy. So if you do that ahead of time by planning, you're saving energy, vital energy, for the moment, like time saving,
Mm-hmm.
and for your productivity, because you're more productive when you already know what you're going to do and not wasting the time on trying to make a decision now and thinking things through. You do it at one time for, like in your case, for a week. Some people do a few days or a month or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it be. But the planning ahead of time saves energy, and the brain can't, like, decision making takes a lot of energy. And if you're in the moment having to make all these decisions, it impacts your productivity and your health and your well-being. Now, another thing though, let's just go back to what the challenges are, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the decision making, usually when I find myself in that position where I'm like, it's hard to make a decision, it's because there's an overload. Number one,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm already tired. I don't have any energy. I already made so many decisions,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't know. So it's an overload there, but then there's also oftentimes the lack of clarity, because I don't know,
Oh,
I don't know which one should I do first, or what is that the most important. So gaining that clarity first of knowing, like in your case, like you said, with your business, right, what are the projects that need to get done first and why,
mm-hmm.
all of that clarity has to happen even before you're actually planning. So having some clarity is important to shorten that decision making as well.
Yeah.
And I know one other thing too is I usually don't struggle with that as much, but I do have quite a few clients where they're afraid of making the wrong decision.
Oh,
So, like if I make this decision now, well, what am I gonna, what's gonna happen if that's, if it's not the right decision? So,
right.
and how do we deal with that?
And how do you push them through that? Because I don't have that problem either. I don't have that fear. I just kind of make a
Uh,
decision. So how do you work through it?
so one key component is the mindset. And so when we have the mindset that we can figure it out, the decision we're making right now, is the best decision currently with the information I have. And if I
Right.
don't feel, then I need to seek more clarity, right? Comes back to clarity. If I don't feel like, if I'm really uncomfortable with something of not making the decision, then I either have to choose, I'm going to gain more clarity, or I'm going to have to accept the fact with whatever information I have right now, I'm making the best decision in the moment.
Right.
And
Right.
if it doesn't work out as anticipated or expected, it may be because I didn't have the information, and it's okay, right?
Right.
But it's more that awareness. Do I need more clarity or not more clarity?
Right.
And otherwise, accept the fact, like, that's where I'm at. I'm going to make the best out of it, and I'm not going to beat myself up afterwards. It's not going to be a big deal if it doesn't turn out perfect or
Right.
the right way.
Right.
At least we're moving forward. So having that kind of more growth minded mindset of like, we're gonna, it's a work in progress and it's flow. I mean, it all depends on how important and what decision you're making, of course, right?
Yeah, like there's the decision between making dinner and, you know, what your next life step is going to be.
Yeah.
But
you know, where you that awareness of, do I need more clarity? Do I not more clarity? And what information do I have or don't have? And can I make a decision at this point or not?
I like that. I think that's a great question to ask yourself. And another question is, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
You know, if I do this and it fails, what's the worst thing that can happen? And if it's going to be a huge, like I'm going to go bankrupt, get some more clarity, like you said. If it's, you know, I'm going to burn the heck out of this bread that I'm making, you know, okay, fine. You burn the heck out of it and you figure it out and you move on. But
and the next question, is that really that bad? You know, is that really that bad if I burn that bread? No, it's not. We'll find out. Then I know maybe what to do different afterwards and I'm learning from it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So mindset and dealing with the beliefs we have is, I think, number one. So it goes kind of tied in with clarity. The more clarity we have, the more information we have, the easier, you know, it is to weigh in and make decisions. And then not having to be afraid of it, right? Because you've done the best decision at that moment. And you know, that's another thing is time, right? With that, oftentimes it's a very important decision. You know what? Don't get sucked into the time pressure.
Right.
Have enough courage to go, you know what? Hold on.
Right.
I need to think about this first. I need to get more information. I got to collect more information about what's going on before I'm making a decision. So if there's time pressure, if possible, usually things aren't like life-threatening that you can't say, hold on, I need to think about this.
That is a really important tool, step, something that I learned, lesson that I learned of, you know, when someone would come and ask me a question and I didn't know the answer, instead of just spitting out an answer, being like, you know what, I need time to think about this, to answer you in the best way possible. Another thing that when you were talking about that, I was at the exact same time thinking about, you know, just having some time to sit in some quietness, you know, maybe close your eyes, meditate if you can, or just kind of just let your brain process it all. I think that's why sleep is so important as well. Your brain will process all of that information. And sometimes you wake up and the answer is very clear because your brain has done the work for you while you were asleep.
Absolutely.
And so I think when they say sleep on it, it's not just a phrase that we just throw out, like actually sleep on it. And very often you wake up and you know the answer. So again, like you said, don't rush into a decision. Give yourself time, sleep on it, let yourself kind of decompress and really like ruminate on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because during the night, the brain will try to make sense of it and figure out. And you wake sometimes up and be all clear. Not like, don't expect it right now. Anybody's listening, like, oh, I'll wake up tomorrow morning. Sometimes it's a couple days later. Sometimes it's a month later, whatever happens. But your brain does need sleep to make sense of the world. And oftentimes you'll find more clarity literally from sleeping. But it's also, I definitely notice when I'm tired, the decision overload sets in a whole lot faster than when I'm
for sure
rested and I'm like, you know, I can, you know, it's not as much. I have more energy. Simple. Right. I have more energy. Now, I know we talked already. So planning is one thing. I'm guessing right now you probably had a priority list before you did the planning, right? What's the most important and putting in. Right.
Yeah. What I thought was interesting was I didn't have clarity on why I was doing certain things. And so I had to gain that clarity through talking with my coach about why we were doing certain things and why it was important that these things had to get done first. And once I understood why, I was like, okay, now I got it. Now I can sit down and do that work, because otherwise I was like, well, I don't think that's the most important thing right now. I think this is the most important thing. And I was wrong. But I had the clarity, and then I was able to make that plan and just come into my office and get the work done.
Yeah. So there's also, well, back to the mindset, what has helped me in the past too is really knowing what my goals are, what my needle movers are, the things I really want to focus on most. And that's not
Mhm.
just business, that can be also your personal life. And then when certain things come up, to know, run it through like a quick questionnaire in your head, right? So is this, if I'm making the decision to do this task or whatever, participate in this event, or is this really moving my needle forward? Does it have an impact? Yes, no, right? And then going through a couple of other questions that, you may develop your own little,
Mhm.
questionnaire there. For me, it was like, does it impact my goals, or is it in a
Right.
completely different direction? That right there already cuts down, quite a few things that you might say yes to, or where you go like, yeah, no, that's not that important right now because it's not moving me forward for what I
Mhm.
want to be. And going through that. And another thing, another strategy I've used too with clients is the Eisenhower box, which is you think of the box, and people know the box, not necessarily by the name, but you put in like, urgent, important, can wait, right? Or can be outsourced. So you got kind of like the different, you sort your task in there. So you kind of pre-sort them in categories, right? And see what I say urgent is often like the needle movers, or it can be other things that are really important, right? Especially when it's more personal life, like it's important to take care of XYZ, right? So really categorizing the things you have. To the brain likes structure, and the brain likes it
Mhm.
simple. And
Mhm.
oftentimes that overload of decision making is because there's so many things in one big pile. If we sorted, and I'm a visual person, so I like sorting, writing down things,
Yeah.
but having a clear understanding, this is urgent, this is what needs to get done, this is not that important, or this is like, somewhat important but not right now, and these are things like, actually they're not really important, I could get rid of them, don't do them, or outsource them. So categorizing helps really the brain to have better structure and cuts down on that overwhelm. And then, okay, the helps you, any little piece helps you in decision making.
So how often are you doing that? Is this like a once a week thing? Is this
You know
something that you
what?
just do when there's projects?
I do it every day. So
Oh, you do?
I do it every week when I look at my week, but I look every morning at what are my needle movers today? What has to absolutely get done today? And which ones are the ones, yeah, they would be great to get done today.
Yeah, but if they
But
get pushed till
but
tomorrow,
if
it's
it's over,
okay.
and then there's some that got pushed over already, over and over, and
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
they're like, no, they're gonna have to be getting done now. And that's oftentimes things like, okay, got to follow up, with some doctor, or need to
Yeah.
follow up with whatever, or send something in that is, not important immediately, but it needs to get done at some point.
Yeah.
So I do that every day, and honestly, doing that every morning and knowing every day what is the most important thing, and then I start with that in the morning,
Yeah.
has then impacted my productivity tremendously. So yeah.
That's amazing. So I'm going to push back, because I have some clients who, when I make these type of suggestions, they say, I don't want to plan everything because that takes the spontaneity and the fun out of life. And my pushback to that is, if you have certain things planned, then you have more time
Yeah.
for spontaneity and fun in your life, because there are some things you just need to plan. I mean, it needs to be planned, and then your brain has more brain power
Yep.
to focus on other things, like actually being spontaneous and doing something new.
Yes. So yeah, I like to have a lot planned out, but I do like flexibility to be spontaneous too. So I have blocks where I'm going, I'm not rocking those. Those are solid. And then
Mhm.
there's certain ones, you know what, that's the block, but if it gets shifted a little bit, it's okay too. But yes, I have you know, if you're more like the creative person and you don't like that structure feeling and you feel claustrophobic of being all structured and that kind of thing, I always say try just one little section and get the things done and the productivity done and see how that feels and how that works for you. And but if there is a decision overload, that is a sign to take action and change something, you know?
Yeah.
And of course, you always have to find your way, what works for you. As I always say, there's no one way that works best for everybody. Figuring out what works best for you and playing around with that. You know, I tried, I don't know how long to do like a quarterly planning. That quarterly planning does not work for me. That gets so tossed over because I like to have flexibility in there too. So quarterly planning is not working for me. And, you know, it's okay to accept it too. Everybody has to find what kind of structure, what kind of planning, and what helps them for their, you know, release of that decision overload. So
I'm one of those creative people who I really like, you know, I live in being creative, but when I have more structure, it gives me more opportunity to be more creative. And that's a hard lesson to learn. That was something that I had to learn, and some of my clients have had to learn that, but I mean, that's true. Like when you have certain things structured, then that gives you more freedom.
Yeah. I think you said it perfect. Absolutely. You get more freedom, and essentially that's what you want, right?
That's what we're all looking for.
And I do want to, because we're getting already towards the end, but we didn't even cover all the aspects here yet. We'll come back to this topic, I bet. But I want people to know too, we have our own coaches too. We're coaches, but we also have our own coaches for that reason, because we do want to make sure we're staying on track. We deal with the decision overload, being able to efficiently work it, and an outside perspective is just absolutely the key. You know, it can be from, you know, just listening to us here, but just people know we have our own coaches as well. We get coached because it is helpful for just productivity, accountability and perspective and so many other things. So I can't believe that time.
I know that went by really fast.
Well, hopefully this was helpful for anybody listening. I enjoyed it again. It helps me too in the conversations to kind of like going back.
Hey, I'm still thinking of what you said last week when you said that you have all your Christmas shopping done by Halloween, and I'm like, now that's my goal.
Well, there you go. Thanksgiving, I said, I think.
Thanksgiving. Okay, I have a little more time.
Give yourself a little time. But yes, because I don't like that decision making and overload in the Christmas time. I want to enjoy the Christmas time. So
I love that.
I have it all done before Thanksgiving. Even Christmas cards are ready and everything is ready. So it's just sitting there around before I send it out. So it would be kind of, you know, don't send it out before Thanksgiving. But it already sits there. So yes, all of that, there's so many different things. So I encourage everybody listening, you know, take a moment, look at your schedule, look at the things where you feel overloaded and the decision-making is tough, and start making little tweaks and adjustments. So awesome.
All right. Well, it was nice seeing you again.
Well, we'll have coffee again next week for the next
Sounds good.
Bye.